Now, just as a little thing, a lot of you haven't been to school for a long time, so I'd like to take you on a little journey to primary school in Ireland. So primary school, we're sitting down, we'll get all the kids in a circle and let's do some reading. Here we go. I am Jazz. For as long as I can remember, my favourite colour has been pink. My second favourite colour is silver. And my third favourite colour is green. Here are some of my other favourite things. Dancing, singing, backflips, drawing, soccer, swimming, makeup, and pretending I'm a pop star. Most of all, I love mermaids. Sometimes I even wear a mermaid tail in the pool. My best friends are Samantha and Casey. We always have fun together. We like high heels and princess gowns or cartwheels and trampolines. But I'm not exactly like Samantha and Casey. I have a girl brain but a boy body. This is called transgender. I was born this way. Now, the people who say that they want factual information to be given to kids, they're lying to the children when they produce this information. So where did this book come from? This book is on the INTOs, the Irish National Teachers Organisation. They have 21 pages of books like this that they're recommending for use in primary schools. And the INTO are training teachers who are favourable to the agenda to actually get these books, get them into the school libraries. Some teachers are actually sitting in class and reading these books to the children. How about King and King? So King and King, here's another book recommended by the INTO. This book goes into school. The tallest mountain, the queen ruled for many years. She has a son who's a prince and she wakes him up and all that sort of thing. The princess had enough. You're getting married, or the mother says, you're getting married, that's all there is to it. So they bring all these lovely princesses to see him. He doesn't like any of them. And, you know, they cheer to his future happiness, and he says, oh, I've never cared much for princesses. So different princes come, he doesn't like them, that one comes, tall ones, short ones, different ones. They all arrive, and the next thing, this princess comes, but she brings her brother. So you see this picture of the girl, her brother's been like, it was love at first sight. What a wonderful prince. What a wonderful prince. And the two boys end up getting married, and the books end with the two boys kissing. This is for primary school children, recommended by the largest teachers' union in this country. Now, I was at home the other day and we had a family coming over to visit which has small children, and one of my children said to me, Dad, you better put away your gay books. You guys know. These books here, I mean these books, cardboard, these are obviously for very, very small children. Daddy, Papa and me. Again, same-sex agenda. Mommy, Mama and me. This book here is very, very interesting if you understand the whole psychology of things. The Mr. Seahorse. And it basically outlines different kinds of fish. But in all these fish that talks about, it's the male who carries the child. Now that's very, very interesting because it's so subtle. There's nothing objectionable in this book until you look at the agenda. Because now people might have heard recently that the first man has given birth to a baby. Only he wasn't a man. It was a woman who said she was a man. Josh and Jazz have 3 moms. Doesn't stop at 2, you can have 3. That's because they were adopted, and they were adopted by lesbians, and that's all okay. A Tale of 2 Daddies. And these books are going around, the family books, saying that all sorts of different families are the same. You can have, 2 daddies, 2 mommies, whatever. A Tale of 2 Mommies. It's okay to be different. This one is not on the INTO list, but it's all in the same vein. The Girl with 2 Dads. Dad, David, Baba, Chris, and me. So these books, apart from that one, are recommended by the INTO. I didn't get all of them. But again, you can have a look at those and you'll see it. These are going at the children. And I had a phone call from a woman not so long ago in Cavan, a grandmother. And she told me that she was in her daughter's house and the 5-year-old girl came in and said, Mommy, is it okay to have 2 mummies? And so the granny decided she was going to stay out of this, but she wanted to see what the reaction was. So the mother thought about it and said, okay, this is a 5-year-old girl in a Catholic primary school in a rural town in Ireland. And she said, well, that might be nice, but it's better to have a mom and a dad. And, you know, the response of the child would almost bring tears to your eyes. The child said, I'm so glad because I thought Daddy might have to leave. So in this child's mind, the fact that it's okay to have two mommies might mean that her father would leave. So in other words, the child is, at 5 years of age, the child was frightened because somebody decided to read one of these books in school and say that sort of stuff. So that's generally the thing. On the 4 to 6 year olds, and again this is just more of the same, they talk about 4 to 6 year olds should be taught about good and bad experience of your body. What feels good? Listen to your body. So they're telling them about self-pleasuring, and then what feels good, listen to your body. So in other words, if it's pleasurable, it's good. And as I say, when you have adults talking to children this young about it, and then if that child is touched by an adult and it feels good, and it might feel good because the children are being taught to pleasure themselves. So, as I say, this is a charter for paedophiles. If the experience feeling is not good, you do not always have to comply. That's interesting. You do not always have to comply, so you might want to comply. They should be taught that they have the right to explore nakedness and the body, and to be curious. Hi kid, you're only 4. Do you know you have the right to explore nakedness? I mean, if I said that to one of your 4-year-old kids, I'm sure you'd be calling the police. And when you take those points and put them with the following points, you will see what I mean about the sexual grooming of children. Enjoyment and pleasure in touching one's own body, early childhood masturbation, discovering one's own body genitals, the meaning and expression of sexuality, for example, expressing feelings of love, appropriate sexual language, sexual feelings, closeness, enjoyment, excitement, as a part of all human feelings. These should be positive feelings. They should not include coercion or harm. So this is 4 to 6 year olds. You're telling them that it's okay to pleasure their own body, and that sexual feelings of closeness, enjoyment and excitement, they're a part of human feelings. Now, normal, natural, it's perfectly normal and perfectly natural for children aged 4 to 6 to be engaged in sexual activity. The children should also learn to talk about sexual matters, consolidate their gender identity. A 4 to 6 year old child should consolidate their gender identity and use sexual language in a non-offensive way. So, when you see that, that's what's coming. The Irish government are saying, and they're saying that, oh, we're not going to do that. And the Irish government are playing a very, very clever game because they don't have an RSE program out there, yet teachers are being trained in RSE. And they haven't said that the new program is going to be compulsory, but we know from the UK, we know from the United Nations and the World Health Organization, they want this to be compulsory. We also know that in Ireland at the moment, the Catholic Church is on the run. Ireland, I would say, is probably the most anti-Catholic country in Europe, if not the whole world. And our media, because we're such a small country, the media is very, very closed. And, you know, a paper like the Catholic Voice, we have a circulation maybe of about 8,000 readers. So we're not national media. A very interesting conversation that I had with a priest the other day who actually went over to the United States. He was in LA. And it was just a very interesting observation. He said in his diocese there were 4.5 million Catholics. He said that's more than the whole of Ireland. That's just one diocese in America, and yet we have 26 dioceses here. In Ireland at the moment, unfortunately, as I said, the Irish bishops are not opposing this. For the World Meeting of Families, the Irish bishops produced a program called Amoris, and on that program there's a video, and there's a woman on that who basically has a son who's been 12 years in a same-sex relationship. She calls it marriage, and she's promoting the LGBT agenda. Why is she featuring in the Irish bishop's statement? None of the Irish bishops opposed Father James Martin coming and speaking, even though his teachings are counter to the church. So what people need to do, I was at an interesting meeting down in Cork just 2 days ago, and the reason I travelled all the way down to Cork is part of the reason why I'm tired and a little bit out of sort, not out of sort, but a little bit behind schedule, is that a lady called Kate Liffey was speaking at the meeting. Now, Kate Liffey happens to be the National Director for Catechetics for the Irish Bishops' Conference, so I thought, very, very interesting to see what she's going to say. And someone had rang me to tell me about this meeting, and I said I'd go, and I spoke to the woman who was organising it, and I said I'm probably going to go to that meeting. So I arrived down at the meeting a little bit early, unlike tonight, sorry for coming late, and I'm sitting in a seat in a room, and the next thing, the woman Kate Liffey comes down to me and says, oh, how are you? Oh, you're John Lacken, that's the Catholic voice. I said, yes. Now, she said, this meeting is not a media event, and I have to insist that you're not allowed to quote what I say from the meeting. I thought, what? And then she said something, and again, I'm not kidding, she said, we want it to be a safe space. What? Safe space? Now, I had never met this woman before. I agreed to the terms, so I haven't quoted anything from the actual meeting. And my impression is that she's probably on our side. She has 4 young children herself, but she wasn't speaking for the Irish bishops. Now, I'm sure the Irish bishop must know that she's speaking because Bishop Thomas Crean was also at the meeting. But I just thought it was very, very strange. But again, afterwards she came up to me, she said, look, the Catholic voice has a role to play in this. She said, you have to rally the troops. So what is going to change and what is going to defend these children? Again, you go back to Catholic teaching. Whose primary responsibility and whose duty is it to ensure the education of the children? It's the duty of the parents, not the bishops, not the government, the duty of the parents. And I was talking to a guy from up north recently, and they had some kind of a protest outside St. Patrick's Academy up in Dungannon, I think it is. And he said, I knew we were going to have an effect. I said, how did you know that? He said, we had mothers with prams in the line. Nothing more powerful than a mother with the pram. You know, so if parents make enough noise, we can actually do something to try to stop this. Will we stop it altogether? I don't know. I wouldn't be confident when you look at what's happened with abortion, same-sex marriage. The divorce referendum went through there recently. There was no campaigns on either side, and they got almost 80%. So we are living in a post-Catholic Ireland. Those of us who are Catholic, we need to realise that our Lord told us we've got to get out there and evangelise the people. So you've got to speak to your friends, you've got to speak to anybody else, anybody that has children in schools. They need to know, you need to realise that not everybody's going to be on the same wavelength as us. But Catholic parents who are seriously concerned about their children, one of the things that I would say you need to seriously consider is whether or not the time is to homeschool. Because otherwise, how are you going to avoid it? One of the analogies, I was talking to a woman about this today, and I said to her, let's take a young girl, your daughter. She's 7 years of age. She's about to make her first Holy Communion. She's in her beautiful white dress. She has her veil on. She's a little bride for Christ, going to receive the Lord for the first time. And I said to her, how long would you let her play in the muddy puddle for? And there was silence. She said, what? I said, the little girl is just about to make her first Holy Communion in a beautiful white dress. How long would you let her play in the muddy puddle for? I said, I don't get you. I said, you wouldn't. You wouldn't let her play in the muddy puddle. So I said, if you were sending your child into a school where this stuff is being taught, you're sending a pure child into the muddy puddle. Because this stuff is being taught. There are teachers on board with this. There's all sorts of stuff like that. So parents' primary duty is to protect their own children first. As I say, years ago, I was involved in the pro-life thing. My wife had come out from hospital. She almost died. 8 children. I was at home looking after her. And there was a referendum on the abortion thing, and people were bringing me up saying, you got to come out canvassing. I said, but my wife's sick. I've got kids. I've got to look after them. They said, you can bring the kids, John. And I just thought, no, hold on a minute. My primary duty is here. I'm going to stay here and do that, because otherwise, if I go out there with my sword blazing and, oh, it's John Lacken, and blah, 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 and suddenly I find the devil is in the back door and the children are destroyed. But people need to realise this is a war. It's a war on the innocence of children. On the side of the demonic, there has always been child sacrifice. The children are being sacrificed through abortion. Those that survive abortion, their innocence is now being sacrificed on this altar of ideology. And remember, an ideology believes something to be true, even though the facts contradict it. In the same sense that there is no scientific evidence that there are any transgender people. There are no scientific evidence that there is anybody born gay. You know, and one woman said that to me recently. She said, oh, I believe they're born gay. This was a journalist from one of the English Catholic papers. And I said, do you really believe that? I said, yeah. So I said, you believe that a 2-year-old boy has a desire to have sex with another 2-year-old boy? No, I don't, she says. I said, what do you mean? You said they're born that way. So are they born that way, or are they not born that way? Because if they're born that way, then they have it from birth. If they're not born that way, it's something that develops afterwards. And again, the objective psychological data would say that that's something that happens afterwards, and we have stuff on that. I'm going to finish there because I could probably talk all night. If you want to get involved in our campaigns, we have two recent newsletters that we're putting out. This one here is looking at the whole thing of LGBT, and it's looking at, and again, our document made no apology for it. This is from a Catholic point of view, but people may not realise this. And on the last page it says, surely the Irish bishops will protect our children. And I did a bit of review of the Ferns Diocesan Youth Services, which was set up in 1965. Part of its remit is the advancement of religion among young people. They've received over 9,000 in funding from the LGBT promoting group called Belong to set up LGBT groups within the diocese. In Kerry, the diocese was set up in 1971. It's received 5,000 from LGBT Belong to set up LGBT groups in the diocese. In Kerry Diocese, on their website, they provide a link where they're saying that children as young as 13 should actually feel free to attend the Dublin or Cork Pride parades. That's child abuse. You have all this talk from the bishops about protecting children, and yet they're promoting organisations that are actually telling children at 13 years of age to attend the gay pride parade. The Ossory Diocese has a weekly LGBT meeting in one of the parishes. In the Elphin Diocese, Belong to have provided LGBT training for school teachers using the premises owned by the diocese, and there's also a weekly LGBT meeting there. In the Dublin Archdiocese, the Catholic Marino Institute, whose first guiding principle is to be supportive of the mission of the Catholic education by assisting processes to articulate the ethos of Catholic education and by proposing models of education to implement it, that mouthful was